Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week 3. And this week, we're going to talk about cost. We'll talk about producers' cost, and the revenue we'll talk about in this week. But before I start with this week, I would like to talk a little bit from the previous week, last week. I did not, I said that I'm going to actually complete consumer surplus and producer surplus a little bit more. So I'll talk about it right now. Okay, then I will start talking about chapter 4 about different types of cost. We'll talk about. All right. Now, what is a consumer surplus? Okay, let me show you guys what is a consumer surplus. So a consumer surplus is the difference between a buyer's, look, first thing is here consumer surplus. Consumer surplus. It is, first of all, it is related with consumers, right? Consumers, or you can say buyers. Okay, so consumer surplus is related with consumers or buyers. And how it is, the difference between consumers, specific one consumer you're talking about, consumers' willingness to pay and actual price. Actual price is your market price, okay? Actual price, actual or market price. That's consumer surplus. It means that difference between consumers willing to pay and the actual or the market price. So the example I gave last week is like how much you want to pay for an iPhone. Okay, so let's say that if we all have a price in our mind. When you go to the market, if you want to buy something, you have a price in your mind of how much you're willing to pay for a specific product. And how much is you are paying actually, which means the price has been set for market price. Okay, the difference between these two is your consumer surplus. Now, example here, let's say that Jake willing to pay, for example, let's say $1,000 for 1,000 is too low. Let's say he is willing to pay $1,800 for an iPhone. Okay, willing to pay $1,800 for an iPhone. Okay, iPhone 12. Right? 12. So when he went to the market and he found that Apple Computer set up the iPhone price, iPhone 12 price, market price or iPhone 12 price, that they set it up at how much? Let's say the price is set up at $1,600. So Jake's, okay, so Jake, his consumer surplus is $200. That's what is consumer surplus. And how do we actually show these things in a graph? We show it this way. I'm gonna draw it. So this is, let's say this is your x-axis and y-axis. Okay. So y-axis. Okay. And let's say this is your so that this is your consumer surplus. Okay. This is your demand curve, for example. Okay, this is your demand curve. That's your demand curve. Okay. And the price you pay, it cannot be determined from here, how much price you pay. So what you gotta do is this. So let's put it in here. So this is your supply curve. So this is your supply curve in here. Okay. The supply curve is here. Okay. All right. Okay. You can see your demand curve, supply curve, so you can understand this is your equilibrium point is in here. Okay, that's your equilibrium point. Okay, so this is your equilibrium price. That's your equilibrium price in here. Okay. All right. Equilibrium price, and this is, let's say, your equilibrium quantity. And this is your equilibrium quantity. All right. There's the situation you have. So consumer surplus will be this triangle. Okay. So this triangle will be your consumer surplus. Okay. How do you determine them? This is the market price. So you write it down here. That's your mark from the market price until above, until the demand curve. Okay. This is consumer surplus. It will be related with the consumer demand curve. Okay. So this triangle will be your consumer surplus. Okay. Producer surplus will be the bottom triangle will be your producer surplus. All right. Okay. So this is consumer surplus, this is producer surplus. Producer surplus will be how much a producer is willing to supply, at which price the producer is willing to supply, and how much he is supply, at which price he is supplying, difference between these two. Okay. At which price he is supplying and how much he is willing to supply. At which price he is willing to supply, the difference between these two. Any question for me, guys?
No.
All right, thank you very much. If you have no questions about it, so this is equilibrium and consumer producer surplus, you can understand. Now, this is a very normal situation of a market. We understand this. Okay. What happens is this, that sometimes the government interferes in our price mechanism system. Government interferes in our price mechanism system. When government interferes, that time this market price government might find that too high. government might find that the market price is too high. So what government does? Government interferes. Government says that you have to set up above the market price or below the market price. Okay. If government set up above the market price, we call that price floor. Okay. Above the market price, we call that price floor. Below the market price, we call that price ceiling. Okay, let me show you guys. Let's say government set it up in here. Okay. Government set it up in here. That's the price government set up. Okay. And this one we'll call it as price floor. So equilibrium price is this. The government says, no, you have to minimum pay this much. Okay. At that time, this will be known as price floor. Let me write. Okay. Price floor. All right, they're talking about tint color and things I think. Format shape, fill, line actually, line, that's it. So this is our price flow. This is our price flow, you can see. This is our supply curve. And this is our demand curve in here. Okay. This is market price. This is market price. Okay. Or equilibrium price. This is your equilibrium point. Equilibrium point. All right. So this is the situation we are having. So if government decides to have a market flow, price flow, okay, the time government is saying that, let's say the market price is, for example, let's say people are willing to work at a price of, let's say, $15 per hour. This is the market price we have for labor market, for example. Okay, this is the market price. The market price is $15 per hour. But the government find that this is too low, and government says, no, you have to pay minimum. Okay, government says, no, you have to pay minimum of, let's say, this price floor. The government is saying that you have to pay minimum, let's say, government is saying $20. Okay, per hour. That's your, let's say, the price flow. Okay. No? So gap is the $5 is your gap in here. Okay, $5 gap you have. When the government increasing the market price, okay, that time you will see that demand in the market is in here. Now the problem is demand in the market is in here. You can see here, demand will be here. Okay. So demand is in here. When the demand is in here, okay, which price you are paying, 15 or 20? Anybody?
20.
20. What will be the consumer surplus? This tiny one, okay? This tiny one will be a consumer surplus that time. And producer surplus from green line, this two blue line to till until this red line up to this orange line. This whole thing will be your producer surplus. Make sense? So which price you are paying from that price? If you go above until the demand curve, consumer surplus. From that price, keep going until the supply curve. That will be your producer surplus. But you cannot go beyond this side. Why? Because your maximum price is in here at that price, the demand is in here only. So supplier only selling this much only, not more. And what about this triangle? This triangle will be known as dead weight loss. Now I'm going to show you the consumer surplus. Okay. So let me write it down. So here I'm going to write consumer surplus. Okay. Where is the consumer surplus? Consumer surplus is in here, this triangle. This is your consumer surplus. All right, this triangle is your consumer surplus at this price. Okay. All right. So when the government interferes and there is the government set up a price floor, that time the consumer surplus will be reduced. You can see here, consumer surplus is reduced. Let's say this is a labor market. In a labor market, who is the consumer? In labor market, the consumer of labors are the employer. And who is the supplier of the labor market? And laborer, who actually works, worker or employees are the supplier of the labor market. Okay. All right. Now, if it happens, the government bring these things down in here, for example. Okay. That's the government set up in this way. All right. So government is just saying this is a price floor anymore. This will be known as, let's say here it will market price 12. Government is saying, example, okay, not hour anymore. Let's say this is rent, for example. Rent of an item for a house is, let's say, $150 a week. Government is saying no, it should be $120 a week. Okay, maximum. So this is known as price ceiling. Okay, price ceiling. Okay, so price ceiling is how much you can go maximum. That is known as price ceiling. And if you set up the price ceiling, that time you can see at the price ceiling, the maximum supply you can see is in here. Okay, maximum supply is in here. So how much will be the consumer surplus? Consumer surplus will be that time from here, this whole thing will be consumer surplus. Look, the price we are paying is 120. From here, keep going. You cannot go more than this point. Okay, because that's the maximum supply you can have. Okay, so you can see here up to this. So all these things will be consumer surplus. Okay, this whole thing will be consumer surplus. And how much is the producer surplus? This one will be the producer surplus that time. Producer surplus is in here. Surplus is this triangle, not consumer. This is producer surplus. Okay, this producer surplus is in here. This one. Deadweight loss, again, this corner will be a deadweight loss. Okay. So this triangle will be your deadweight loss. Okay, this triangle, deadweight loss. All right, so this is the thing I wanted to talk from last week. And interesting thing, look here, when we say price ceiling means what will be the maximum price you pay, that is max price ceiling. So 120 is the maximum price you pay, that's why they call it price ceiling, reach up to the ceiling. When you take this one at top, which means how this is not price, this is the price floor. This is saying that how much you will be paying minimum. Okay, that is called price floor. Okay, that is called price floor. All right. So this part I wanted to talk from last week, nothing much. Now let's move on to this week. So this week we'll be talking about production function, factors of production, fixed and variable inputs, fixed and variable cost, revenue and profit, firm's decision about cost and output, short-run and long-run cost, output and profit determination, revenue and sales, and finally we'll talk about profit maximizing output, both in short and long run. So these are the, I think, 8 topics we'll be covering today. All right, let's move on. Production. So what is the total production? Total production is the amount of output produced given the input. How much you're producing, maximum, that is your total product. Marginal product means how much extra product you are getting from an extra input. Okay, the last unit of output produced, or how many products. Like let's say last unit is, let's say they produce as last unit is how much. Let's say they produce 10 in a go. So that time you cannot say only one product. 10 will become 1 unit that time. Okay. All right. So and we all know that the main objective of any business. The main objective of any business is to make profit. We call it maximization of shareholders' wealth. That is their main objective, to find out that what will be the maximum profit they can make. So, so production function will tell us the relationship between the quantity of inputs and the output of goods and services that has produced. Relationship between input and output will be shown through the production function. Okay. Now, So every firm, and now the next point is coming up about every firm have to address, big or small, every firm have to address that what are the basic questions they have. The questions they have is what to produce, how to produce, and how much to produce. Okay, so what to produce? That's what they will find out by doing the market research, but what to produce. Then it's about how to produce. That's their production process they're talking about in here. And how much to produce. Okay, so that time they have to make a decision about the pricing. Okay, they have to make a decision about the pricing. So it depends on what type of product they have. It depends on that as well. If their product is very elastic product, there is no point of increasing the price. They need to understand that what type of product they are producing. Okay. So here we have an example of production function, a marginal product, and the average product. Okay. So let me talk about it. All right. So this is a graph we have in here. So here we have, so you can see here, quantity of output per period of time. So y-axis will be showing you the quantity of output per period of time, and x-axis will be showing you units of variable inputs per production of time. Okay, so y-axis is showing you the output and x-axis is showing you the input. Okay, units of variable inputs. So you can see A, B, C is our different production point. Okay, so at point A, okay, at point A, the inputs you have, at that point A, the inputs you have, point B, you have more inputs, points you have more inputs. So you can see here that the more inputs you have, the more output you can have. There is a positive relationship between quantity output per period of time and the unit of variable inputs per period of time. So there is a positive relationship, which means that the more you give an input, the better output you will have. So we can see these things from here. See that? Very interesting. Another interesting part I would like to add here is this one. Let me do some annotations. So look at this point. This another point. Look at this point. What I would like to draw your attention here is that from point A, you see, the input is this much, but output is not that much. Then you see point B, your input is this much. You can see the input is from here to here. Input is this much, but look at the output, almost same. Okay? But third case, look, input is this much, right? But look at output is not that much. Output is low. So which you're trying to mean here is that not necessarily that you increase your input, your output will also increase at the same rate. No, not necessarily. It's not. So input and output may not always maintain the same rate. Why is that? Why it's so low? You can see here that if they increase more input, output will be actually going down. See, so it is actually like if you go in here, well, let's say their input is in here. The input is increased again until this, but look at the output has gone down, actually not increased. See that? So you can see here, input has increased from C to D, but look, output has gone down. Output has gone down. So increasing input not necessarily mean it will increase your output. Now, why is that? Why it happens? It happens because of diminishing marginal return. It happens because of diminishing marginal return. What is diminishing marginal return? Let's have a look. Okay, so this one is about, I think, the cost they will show you here. So, okay, let's move on. What is diminishing marginal return? Diminishing marginal return means this, that as more and more variable inputs are added to fixed units, after certain level, marginal product will increase at a decreasing rate, remain constant, and then start falling. This is known as diminishing marginal return. This is a characteristics of our input and output process, okay? So you can see here, it will increase, then slowly it will go down. At one stage, it will start to diminish, going more down, okay? This is known as diminishing marginal return. All right. Now, so now the production output, okay, production output will also actually will be depending on number of labors, productivity of the labor, okay, and also it will depend on the prices of inputs and not changing, okay, prices of the inputs as well. All right. So beyond certain level of production, diminishing marginal return is set at in an MC start to rise. So marginal cost will be rising. Now, let's talk about short run and long run. What is short run? What is long run? Look, in every production, anywhere you go for production, okay, there will be, this is called factors of production. Okay, this is called factors of productions. There are 4 different factors of productions we have. It is known as land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. So these are the 4 factors of productions, we call them. To produce anything, okay, to produce any item, you will need these 4 factors of productions. You will need these 4 factors of production. All right. Now, when you say this long run and short run, with the long run and short run in economics actually depends on these factors of productions. Okay. In economics, okay, when you say that all factors of productions, production is variable, then long run. Okay, when at least one factor of production is fixed, is short run. Okay, so how do we mean by this? Let's say you set it up. Okay, you set it up your business. How did you set it up? You set it up this way, that you have a one piece of land, the premises you have, then you have 10 labor, some capital, and the management you have. Okay, you started your business, but at one stage you start to feel like your land is not big. Your land is big, but labor is not big enough. When you say your labor is not big enough, it means you're recruiting more staff. Okay, that's all right. You can recruit more staff. Okay, no problem at all. So which means you're just increasing one factor of production, not all of them. When all of them will be variable, all factors of production are variable actually, then it's long run. When you change the land, you increase your labor, you increase your labor, you increase your capital, you increase your management, all together, you're increasing. That means you are reached at your long run of the business. But if you see that, okay, you're changing all of this land, labor, capital, but not the management yet, this is still short run. Okay, this will still be known as short run. That's what they will try to establish here. How long is the long run and how long is the short run? Okay. All right. So when they say this thing, they say here, short run, when at least one factor of production is fixed, output can be increased by changing variable factors. Okay. So at least one factor of production is fixed, and we'll call it that short run. Okay. And short run is the time period that is not long enough to allow changes to certain economic conditions and decisions. And what is long run? Is a period of time in which all factors of productions can be varied. Okay. All factors of productions can be varied. So long run is time period long enough for all important information and choose to be available. Okay. So they mean that it is long enough that they have to change all those factors of productions. All right. Now, in economics, we have different types of profit system. So in accounting profit and economics profit, I will show you the changes, the difference between these two. What is accounting profit and what is economic profit? Accounting profit, we say, is equal to, accounting profit is equal to revenue minus expenses. This is known as accounting profit. Okay. These expense, or if it's revenue cost, these expense is known as explicit. Let me type it down. Explicit cost, we call them. Okay. But economic profit will be equal to revenue minus explicit cost minus implicit cost. Now, we know what is explicit. Explicit cost is very simple. All the cost you pay to run the business, that's explicit cost. Like all the cost that you have within the business, that will be known as explicit cost. Okay. So what is implicit cost? So implicit cost are those costs. Implicit costs are those costs that you do not pay directly. You will be paying indirectly, right? So how do we mean by you will be paying indirectly? Actually, when you say you're paying indirectly, we mean this way: that, for example, let's say that you have invested 10,000 or let's say $100,000 in a business. You're invested that $100,000 invested in a business. This $100,000 was in your savings account. So look, when the money was in your savings account, this money was actually earning some profit, some interest for you. That's out of $100,000 every year. You used to get, let's say, $5,000 as your interest in every year. You used to get $5,000 as your interest in every year. Okay. So when you have this $5,000 in interest, you will not receive this money when you will be investing the money into the business. That is a sort of your loss. It is a cost too. We call it opportunity cost. This opportunity cost is also calculated, also considered in economic profit. This is not an implicit cost, we call that. Okay. Yes. All right, let's move on. So explicit cost that appear on the balance sheet of a company, balance sheet, profit and loss account, that you can see. But implicit cost or opportunity cost of foregone alternatives, time, interest, income on capital. These things are known as implicit cost or opportunity cost. Okay, so economic cost are the sum of explicit and implicit cost, and total cost, the total cost of inputs. Okay, so now we can understand it better. Let's move on. And we know that total revenue will be equal to price into quantity. The total amount of money received by the seller for selling the product. That is price into quantity, we call them. Okay. All right, another one is sunk costs. Sunk costs that have already been incurred and cannot be recovered, and non-sunk costs that are incurred and in a particular decision is made. All right, we go inside. This is the thing is important for us to understand: the fixed cost, variable cost, these things. What is a fixed cost? What is a variable cost? Fixed costs are costs which are not related with the volume of output. Okay. Which are not related to the volume of output, that is known as fixed cost. Okay. So fixed cost is the cost that does not vary with the level of output, that does not changes with the output volume. Let's say you produce 10,000 items. Now you produce, let's say from 10,000 items, you reduce your production to 5,000. Doesn't matter, your fixed cost will not change. If you increase the production or decrease the production, doesn't matter. Your fixed cost is not going to change. Fixed cost will remain fixed regardless of your production volume. Okay, that is known as fixed. And what is variable cost? So the variable cost is the cost that will change with the production volume. Okay, variable cost will change with your production volume. The more you produce, the more variable cost you will pay. The less you produce, the less variable cost you pay. Okay, so variable cost is actually your directly connected with your production volume. Fixed cost is not. All right. Now, how do we calculate total cost? Total cost is equal to total fixed cost plus total variable cost. Okay, so total cost will be fixed cost plus variable cost. That will be our total cost. All right. And here is average cost. We know average cost. So when you divide it by quantity, then you get the average cost. So when you divide the total cost divided by quantity, you get the average cost. So total fixed cost divided by quantity, average fixed cost. Total variable cost divided by quantity, average variable cost. So these things, you guys, the more you guys will practice, the more you will understand. Okay. So mystery of average variable cost, have a look. Total cost is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost, right? And average cost will be average fixed cost plus average variable cost. Okay. So divide by output to find out cost per unit of output. So yeah, so just divide it by Q, that's it. Okay. Nothing much. The more you practice from this chapter, the better you understand this one. Okay. So here are the formulas. Average cost is total cost by Q, fixed average is again and again the same thing is in here. I would like to bring up this new item, marginal cost. Okay. And marginal cost. What is marginal cost? Marginal cost is to produce one extra item. Okay. To produce one extra item, how much will cost you? That is marginal cost. Okay. To produce one extra item, how much your total cost will be increasing. Okay. That is known as your marginal cost. All right. So this is the way the marginal cost looks like. The characteristics of marginal cost that it will drop very quickly at the beginning. Okay. Then it will go to increase the cost. Okay. So at the beginning, it will drop very fast. Then it will start to rise again. Okay. That is the behavior of marginal cost. And here I think we have a graph in here about the costing graph. So let's make it bigger and show you guys what does it say about it. Yes. So here it is. So here they just showed you different calculations. Like here is your output. Okay. Here is your output. Here is total fixed cost. Here's total variable cost. Add these two up, you get the total cost. Okay. So how to get average fixed cost? So average total average cost. Okay. The total fixed cost divided by quantity, you'll get the average cost. Okay. So average fixed cost will be total fixed cost. 12 divided by quantity is 0. That's why this is empty, because when you divide it by 0, it becomes empty. Okay. All right. And marginal cost. Marginal cost will be changes in, look at here, changes in total cost divided by changes in quantity. So changes in total cost, here is total cost, changes total cost is 22 minus 12. Okay, 10 divided by changes in quantity, 0 to 1, which is 1. So 10 divided by 1, the answer is, okay, answer is 10. All right. And another interesting thing here is this, that you can see the characteristics of different cost curve. You can see the characteristics of different cost curve in here. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's have a look in here. So you see the marginal cost when the output increases. This output is increasing, so marginal cost is decreasing. See, but after a certain stage, it starts to increase. That's what we said. The marginal cost at first, it will drop. Then again, it will start to rise. You can see here, it will drop at first and will start to rise. You can see from the numbers too, it is dropping at the beginning, 10, 6, 5. Now it starts to increase, 7, 12, making increasing. Okay, that is marginal cost. Now with the average cost as well, look, it's decreasing, and after 10, it starts to increase. That's average cost. Okay, average total cost. Here is average variable cost. See here, decreasing, then again it starts to increase. Okay, average fixed cost keep on decreasing. You see, it's not increasing anymore. It's decreasing on the average fixed cost. Okay. Now let's have a look on these graphs in here. So you can see these graphs. So look at marginal cost. It's going down, then increase, the red one. Look at green one. Fixed cost is just decreasing. It's not increasing. You see that? But all of them increases. So it decreases first, then it starts to increase. But at what pace? That's what you can understand from the graph. Okay. So here is our, what this says here, average fixed cost falls as output rises. Okay, so that's what I already showed you. This one, the average fixed cost will be falling as the output will be increasing. Okay. If marginal cost is less than the average cost, average must be falling. Why is that? So the answer is that if marginal cost is greater than average cost, and average cost must be rising. Look at here. The thing is that if marginal cost, okay, marginal cost and average cost, they will intersect at the bottom of the average cost. That's the whole point. Always remember this one, that Marginal cost will touch the average cost at the bottom of the average cost, at the lowest value of the average cost, will touch at that point. Okay. All right. So as the marginal cost is greater than the average cost, SC must be rising, average cost must be rising. So you see it here. So when they grow, the crossover, you see, marginal cost is higher than the average cost. Okay. As long as marginal cost is lower than the average cost, the business keep on producing. How far they will produce? They produce up to this point where the average cost is minimum. Okay, but the average cost is minimum and equal to marginal cost. That much they will produce. If they produce more than that, then marginal cost will be higher than the average cost, which is not good for the business. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about economy of scale. Economy of scale means this. In the long run, when the business starts to, let's say, that grow, okay, business starts to grow. When the business starts to grow, the interesting thing is that a bigger business can buy items at a lower price. How? Because they purchase in bulk. They purchase in a bigger quantity. When they purchase in a bigger quantity, they can purchase at a lower price, right? This is the point, that they can purchase at a lower price. So this thing is known as return to scale. Okay, return to scale. Return means like yield, you can say that way. Okay, so when your scale is big, okay, when your scale is big, I mean economy scale of production is big, okay, that time, because of a bigger economy of scale, your return will be sometimes high, sometimes same, sometimes low, negative. Okay, so one is constant, means remains the same. Increasing return to scale is increasing, and the decreasing the low. Let's make a little bit more about this one. Here's an example is in here. So what happens is this, that average cost, okay, average cost of an item will start to drop. Okay, this is in the long run, right? Average cost of an average total cost, you mean, not the variable, not the fixed, average total cost will start to drop at the beginning of your start of the business. Okay, so average total cost will start to drop. They'll keep dropping. At one stage, it will stop. It will not drop anymore. Okay, so look over time, your quantity of production is increasing. Okay, your quantity of production is increasing, but your cost is decreasing. It's a negative relationship. Then it stays halt in here. It stops in here. Okay, then the return to scale, economies of scale, okay, marginal economies of scale, keep on constant for some time. Then again it start to increase. So look, so when the production increases at first, your long run average total cost curve will decrease. Then will start to hold it constant, remain constant for some time. Then will start to average cost start to increase. When it start to increase, when you go for a bigger production, okay, average cost will increase. Now you can ask me questions, why it's going to increase, why the bigger it should be purchased at a lower price more. So why it will increase? Not because just only the purchase, because of, let's say, your production has gone so big, now you need to actually hire a new land. You need to make a new plant now. Because of new plant, that costing of the new item will be also transferred to the existing product as well. That's the problem. So let's say the capacity of your farm is to produce 1,000 motor vehicles. Okay, the company, you can produce 1,000 motor vehicles they can produce. All of a sudden, what happened is that their production has gone up. Now they need to produce 1,200 motor vehicles. So, but the capacity is maximum 1,000. So now they need to rent new factory. So for 200 extra motor vehicle, you have to rent in a whole new place. See this? This is a new extra costing will be coming up. Okay. As a result, your average total cost will be increasing after one stage when you're full of capacity. So that's why they say long run. Long run means when all variables are changing. It means your land, labor, capital, everything is increasing. All right. So here is one example. They have given a long run and short run. So you can see the input in the short run is 3, input 1, input 2, input output is there. So 2 inputs, you have input 1 and input 2. So input 1 remains the same, but input 2 is increasing. You can see output is increasing too. Okay, but in the long run, both input 1 and input 2, both of them will be changing. And you see output is changing too. All right, so how do we actually gain our economies of scale? We gain our economies of scale in various ways. First one is specialization and division of labor. Specialization means here, when the same person working on the same project for a long time, they become expert. Their expertise in the production will increase. Okay, their expertise in the production will increase. They can work like very fast. They can work very fast. They know that there's the little trick and tips and tricks, even some hacking as well, how to do it faster and quicker. That comes from a specialization. When you work the same thing for a long time, you become specialized in it. Okay, indivisibility. So the work is not divided. The work is within the one person. One person will be doing the whole work. Container principles, when you actually, let's say when you purchase something, you purchase an item, like minimum you have to purchase 1 container, for example. Okay, so the small scale business, they cannot actually gain that type of benefits. So the large scale business, they can actually gain this type of benefits because they have the ability to purchase 1 container, what is minimum purchase, to get a specific discount rates. Okay, they can also make profit from byproduct. Byproduct means like item which is not your intended, okay, intended product, but unintended product, but these things you can actually sell. Okay, like there are a lot of companies that they when they make their production, they produce lots of rugs. Rugs is not their production, okay? Rugs is not their production, but rugs are being produced. All right, and they can sell these rugs as a byproduct to some other companies in income too. The multi-stage of productions, different stage of production. Organizational economy spreading overhead. Spreading overhead means your per unit cost will be spread over all the products. So when you spread the overhead, okay, so it means the overhead, you can say that as like variable cost as well per unit. Okay, so there are some costs which you have to divide, like fixed cost overhead. When you talk fixed cost overhead, means that you are actually spreading the fixed cost on the other product too, not only one product. Okay, you're spreading it for the whole production. Financial economies, like at low price, interest rate, taxation, and all these things, you get some benefits from the government and benefit from the other suppliers. Okay. So long run average cost curve. What is the assumptions behind the curve? The curve we have just, I'll show you here. So this is the curve we have. So at first it goes down, then it stays down, and slowly it will start to increase like an envelope, we call that sometimes. Okay, so this is the assumptions held behind this curve. factor prices and quality do not vary. It says that factor prices and quality do not vary. Okay, so quality is not changing, fine. We're not working on quality at this stage. State of technology and factor quality are given. So technology remains the same. Firms choose least cost combination of factors. So the firm will be choosing the minimum cost, which combination they will have the minimum cost. Okay, these are the assumptions of the long run average cost curve. Okay, here is mentioned long run average cost curve, also known as envelope curve, because look at here, you can see it here. So it stays like this, then goes straight like this, then goes like this. So let me show you here in a better shape. Envelope curve. Okay. So you can see it will be sort of look like this one. This one they mean here. But I wanted these things to be straight line, not like drop one. Okay, that's the best we can have. You can see at this stage. That's fine. This one also. Okay, that's actually a long run average cost curve. That looks like an envelope. All right. So another one is called diseconomies of scale. Diseconomies of scale means when you do not get those benefits, rather your cost is increasing. That is diseconomies of scale. Okay. This says a diseconomies of scale. How does it happen? Management problems. Repetitive work fosters worker alienations. Sometimes they get like productivity goes down because working the same time is monotonous. More complex industrial relations, production line processes and interdependence. These are the different factors that will actually cause the diseconomies of scale because of management problems. Okay, the farm is big as because of the big farm, there will be not only some benefits, they will have some complications too. Okay, their cost will be increasing as well, not necessarily all the time. Their cost is going to be reduced all the time. No, the cost is actually goes down too. Sorry, cost increases too because of being big. Okay. And always remember that when you have diseconomies of scale, diseconomies of scale comes within the business. It means internal problems. That's the thing. And economies of scale comes from internal, external, both sides. Okay. When you talk about external means outside of the organization. Okay, that's external. Inside within the organization means inside. Okay. Here you try to establish a relationship between this short-run average cost and long-run average cost. So you can see this is short-run. Okay, so this is not like that you're going for a big business. You're setting up one after another branches and one after another factories. That is long-term. Within the same business, they try to show you if you want to make an output of this much. Okay, then short-run average cost is this. How about you increase your output? If you produce this much, a business setup, their short-run average cost is in here. Okay, so these are the different like 1, 2, 3, 4 businesses together. You can see here 4 different stages of the business, as you can show it here. And the same business will go through all these 4 stages in the long run. Okay, now let's talk about total revenue, average revenue, and marginal revenue. Total revenue, we know it, price into quantity, that's total revenue. Average revenue is total revenue divided by quantity. That will give you average revenue, how much quantity you have sold. Marginal revenue means if you want to sell 1 extra unit, how much this 1 extra unit will generate your revenue. That will be your marginal revenue. So this is changes in total revenue divided by changes in quantity. Okay. So here is our revenue. Okay. So you can see demand curve and supply curve, and this is your price. So your revenue will be this rectangle is your revenue. Okay, that's your revenue curve. Okay. That's the market, and for the farm, we can see this is for the perfect competition. I can see that for the perfect competition that the business makes no economic profit. From here, you can say that this is for the perfect competitive market, because in perfect competitive market, the demand curve, average revenue, marginal revenue, price line, all of them are this horizontal line. Okay, this is for the perfect competitive market. Here they're talking about revenue curves when price varies with output. So you see here when the pricing, the output increases. When the output increases, you see that total revenue will also increasing. At one stage, total revenue start to decrease. Why? Price has gone down. You can see here, P is equal to average revenue. Okay. So your $1, $8 is your price per unit. When you sell 1 item, you get $8. Next item is 7. So you can see price is slowly decreasing when your quantity increasing. Okay. So your total revenue is increasing here. You can see increase. After one stage, it start to decrease. So marginal revenue is, it will be decreasing, and one stage it will go even negative. Have a look. Here is marginal revenue. See how it goes negative. So marginal revenue in this case, the marginal cost is in this case. And always remember these things. A farm's maximum profit they can make if they produce the quantity of goods where the marginal cost and marginal revenue intersect. So marginal cost and marginal revenue intersect at this point. So 3. Okay. So if the business, okay, if the business produces 3 units of goods, they can make the maximum profit. Okay, this is the rule of thumb. Always remember that the business will, as long as the profit maximizing rule is marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. Okay, if they produce less than that, you can see marginal cost is higher than the marginal revenue. If they produce more than that, marginal cost is again higher than the marginal revenue. Okay, so you can see at this, if they produce a 2, because the marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost, they will start to produce more because they are still making profit. And if they produce more than 3, every unit they produce, marginal cost is more than the revenue. So your costing is higher than the revenue, not going to produce more than 3. All right. So here is another example you can see here. This is, let's say in this case, a marginal cost curve. Here in the marginal cost curve, this marginal cost curve is actually your supply curve. Marginal cost curve is your supply curve. So what happens in this case is this. You can see here, and your demand curve. Okay, they didn't show you the demand curve here, so there will be another curve here called demand curve. Okay, there will be another curve will be there called demand curve. Anyway, I'm going to explain from this curve. Let me copy this and take it in here. Okay. All right, so you can see here that at these 3 units of productions, okay, this is the maximum profit maximizing units. Okay, from here, you can see average revenue is in here, which is 6. Average revenue is 6. How do we know? At 3 quantities C, where this line connect with the average revenue curve at this point, right? And where do they connect as average cost at this point? So you can see revenue is higher than the cost. It means the firm is making profit. All right. Look at this situation. The firm is producing at Q. See that? Draw it until it touches the revenue curve in here. Average revenue is in here, and you keep going up. Average cost curve is high than the revenue, so the firm is making loss. If the costing average cost is higher than the average revenue, the firm will be making mistakes, making losses. Okay. All right. Loss minimizing. So, and at that point, the business is making loss. Still, marginal cost and marginal revenue intersect at this point. This point is the best option that will give them the minimum loss. That's what they mean here. And here, average variable cost. So price is average variable cost. You can see the price is in. Look at average cost. So average cost is in here and price is in here. So you can see clearly, you can see here, the business is making losses. Okay. So at that time, when the business will be making losses like this, we suggest them to go for shut down the business for time being. Okay. All right. Our firm's rationale. Firms may not have the information to maximize profit, like average customer or marking up pricing. So firm might have some problems with this thing. They don't know how much price to charge. They make these mistakes. But it's normally, this is the case is normally from with those firms who are actually in perfect competitive market. For those firms, it happens. All right. I think that's all we have in so far. Any questions for me, guys?
No.
Not yet. All right, let me stop the recording then.